I was like, oh my God, I have been listening to my own bullshit, much of which you must have enjoyed for the first 100, 200 episodes. But I had a space to be fully me and fully heard and seen at a time when I think I felt very unseen personally and professionally, like just going through so much in my life. Even though this is about work doesn't have to suck, like, we are all humans in this place.
Hey, Nicole, what do you get when a former corporate CEO and a do-gooding executive walk into a recording studio?
Well, Erin, nothing, because the two of us are usually on my couch or Zoom, because wine.
You get a podcast created for Gen X women who are bought into the corporate world, but fed up with the BS.
I know, it's how to thrive the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7.
It's career therapy, it's comedy, it's definitely full-on authenticity. Basically, we give you tangible strategies to rise in your career without compromising everything else.
Because work doesn't have to suck.
Nicole, we have visitors.
All I want to say is happy 300, Erin.
Can you please explain? Because I know your brain doesn't function the same as everybody and immediately make the connection.
No. So the minute you said, okay, so it's our 300th episode, which is a feat, right? Like it is a feat. And then, of course, it brought up visions of that movie 300, which is about like the defeat of the Spartans, like this terrible defeat of the Spartans by like the Persian Empire. But it was all like CGI. I don't know if everybody remembers this, but like the CGI graphics were amazing. I have never seen abs like that on humans before. So I'm just here celebrating the symbolism of 300, which is like, they 300 people withstood this massive army. I mean, they got crushed, but they withstood it with their beautiful abs. And so we're here celebrating the fact that we actually got to this point. Does it really matter what happens next? Maybe. I don't know. We're going to talk about that. But we're celebrating the fact in full costume glory, as it's also almost Halloween, that we made it this far. That's what it represents.
Well, and I, like, in all honesty, cannot believe that we haven't killed each other. And I'm serious. We are great friends, and we're also very different. And the fact that we've done this, so we looked it up, guys. This was 7 years. Our first recording was 7 years on October 22nd. So 2 days ago, we did our first recording, so just a quick backstory for people listening or people joining that haven't before. How did this all start? Well, it started because my friend here, Nicole, first of all, you should know, is both the smartest, most intelligent person you'll ever meet. I always tell people Mensa level intelligence, Yale graduate, Johns Hopkins. She's also the most inappropriate and hilarious person you'll ever meet. And so whenever we would have conversations, I'd always feel like it was like this wild roller coaster. Like even if it was just two of us, no flies on the wall. And I was like the way we go in and out of like inappropriate stuff to, super deep stuff is interesting. And I remember thinking maybe the world will want to hear this. And I also, let's be honest, Nicole's a little unique and different and not everybody understands her. And I was like, I want more people to know my crazy friend Nicole in all the ways. And so I, just over 7 years ago, wrote her an email. I was working on my bio. I just started to think about starting my company. I was leaving my corporate executive position. And I was like, oh, I know who could help me tidy this up. She's such a great writer. I'm going to send her my bio. And at the end of this long email, which if you listen to any episodes, I constantly say, don't ever freaking write long emails. I wrote, oh, by the way, would you want to do a podcast together?
It was a pod proposal. And it was before ChatGPT too. Like it was
way before.
This was all done in real time by real brains.
By real brains. And so she said, of course, yes. And then, so we started kicking around. I said, well, why don't I come down to New Haven? I live about an hour from her. And we'll figure out what we're going to do. And so I grabbed my friend Meg from town and we came down to her house and we got in the living room. And I was like, you know what? I'm breaking out my Apple iPhone recorder and we're just going to have a conversation. And so episode 1 was in her living room, unplanned, unprompted. I remember you were you were definitely more serious. You've done, you were sort of cleaned yourself up a little bit. But it was a great episode.
But also, I'll say this, part of it too, and part of the reason why you're here is that our idea, I think, was fairly unique. And it was to create, essentially to cultivate a community of people like us who were navigating like huge lives, huge careers without a lot of support, with wanted to do it with more humor, felt like we were in the trenches, but also had succeeded. And I think, Erin, as you were transitioning to this new phase of life, you were like, I'll just say it, like, who's the person who's probably struggled the most professionally around you in the most surprising way? And that was me. And so I think we had decided that we wanted this to be someplace where we were creating a community like you, where everyone was sort of having these real life, real authentic, vulnerable moments in life and career and they could learn from us and from others. But it was also a form of therapy. Like it was intended to be essentially real life work therapy, which no one was doing at the time. And that's how it started. And that's why we always laugh about the virtual couch, because if you don't know this, our first episode was on my couch. And that they were, everyone was, I was just sort of like, oh my God, this is going to be where I finally confess all my deep secrets. So, the virtual couch has been symbolic ever since. And I think that we have evolved, and we're going to continue to evolve with some of our conversation today and things just in that very same vein, which is like, when we talk about this podcast and our episodes and what we've done and what we've created, it's both a serious content, right, and thought and in hopes and dreams, but it's also very much like watching the real life struggle. Like, it's not just the theoretical lesson. It's like the real life, and there have been some roller coasters, and I think we'll probably talk through some of that.
It's like Real Work Wives of Connecticut.
Exactly.
Yeah, something like that.
Onward.
Well, and you were much more strategic than I was. I had no idea what we were going to talk about, but you were like, "Oh, I can use this as a platform to get out all my shit," and it's worked well. And so, if you're also a new time listener, we do it differently. So about half the episodes are Nicole and I. She is my co-host. She is my partner in crime for 300 episodes, and then half of them we bring in people that actually know something about something. I typically do the interviews. And so we like to give a little of everything. And what's interesting is we track the data, and the data's always shown us the same thing, that it's 50-50 split of what people listen to. So some people want to listen to the interviews, and it probably depends on the day. And some people want to listen to our reflections and your real life work challenges and your fucking hilarious stories. And so we're just going to keep doing that. But so we have the first question, and I saw HP. No, we're not relying on you for the laugh track. We know we're hilarious. We have everybody on mute mostly because Rachel will kill us because the audio can get really rough with an audio podcast. But first question came in from Carlos. Carlos isn't on, but a lot of people ask this. What was your favorite episode this far? What was yours?
So the truth is like, I was like, holy shit, 299 episodes is a lot. My brain hurts. Like, what? I didn't think about favorite at all. I thought, what comes to mind? Like, what's so salient, right? You know what came to mind? I don't know if you remember, if everyone remembers, but if you listen to one episode, for me, it's episode 206. And episode 206 is it's from the vault. It's a recast of an earlier episode. And the title of it is Nicole's Moving Up, Out, Up, and Onward.
Yeah.
And this episode, and like, okay, yes, it's one of my episodes. Sorry, ego. No, but honestly, this is like the culmination of everything that I learned in this podcast to date. Because, I came in as someone who was like funny, but struggling, and also like largely unself-aware. And then all these things happen professionally, personally. There's a pandemic, like my partner leave, like my life basically falls apart, and like while doing this podcast. But yet I'm like, it's fine. And at this point where I have left a major job in like the middle of the pandemic, my father is dying, my partner has left, like all this stuff. And I just have this moment of like unbelievable clarity where I'm like, no, this is a good thing. And I have this one line, and this has stuck with me for the longest time. And I think it's probably why this is my favorite episode, but it says, when people ask me how I'm doing, my answer is generally somewhere between onward and oh fuck. You know what? And it has just been my mantra ever since. And so I do suggest to people, if you really want to get to know this podcast in a nutshell, for me, that episode is it, because it is just, it basically 6 years of learning, and everything that comes after that is freaking gravy.
Yeah.
So I want to know what's yours. And then I think we should take a couple from other
Okay.
people. They have one that's their favorite.
So I would say for me, there's a couple that come to mind. One that we reference all the time, which was the 2-part series Spanish Meltdown, which with
Yes.
Nicole, she used to work for a company that was a Spanish-based company, so she'd travel there quite frequently. Luckily knows enough Spanish to be dangerous, but not enough to, do her PowerPoints in it. And we do a 2-part episode because that's when we used to record more late at night. And I think we were on the phone from probably 8 or 9 o'clock at night till probably close to midnight.
And I was in Spain. So it was like,
and she was having a bit of a breakdown. And it was probably it wasn't the last time, but it was one of the apexes of Nicole just trying to outwork everybody and everything because that was her self-worth. And at one point, I'm like, well, what are you doing? She's like, well, I'm doing an 80-page PowerPoint deck in Spanish. And I'm like, what the are you doing? No, for so many reasons, not just the Spanish. And God bless her for being really vulnerable. And it's certainly not one of those episodes where you're like, I'm looking for 3 hacks to do. No, like, don't tune into that one. But it's the vulnerability and the connection I think we all can feel. I know I get to play like tough love, like get your stuff together, but I've had those moments too. So that's the first one. I forgot to write down what number that is. That was like, I don't know.
Early on.
First
20. Yeah.
First
early
50.
on. And that's another good one because it tells you exactly, like, I would say to your point, Erin, if you want to know the episode, like really the reason why we were here, like the virtual couch, that is the episode to listen to, right? It was at that point where I think our purpose really coalesced, and it was like, oh, this isn't just playing around. This is real life. Like, there is pain, there is joy, there is hurt, there is anger, there is hope, there is help.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other ones it's like 2 categories, but it's our sillier episodes. They actually do really well. I mean, episode 90, the 12 days of work myths, which I know we've replayed at the holidays at least once. These are episodes where we literally come in, we don't know what the other person is going to do, and we recreated the 12 days of Christmas only work myths into a song, which was hilarious. And then, episode 280 was an episode where we just can't. I was like, you know what? Sometimes we just want to keep it light. Let's talk about the top 5 from each of us products that changed our life in the last year. Maury, you got the leather vest. I know you went out and bought and we're not sponsored for shit because we're too stupid to like get sponsors. But that episode like ranks really high where we just. So I love those episodes too, where we sort of like push aside the deep work and
just have some fun. Excellent.
Yeah. Those are my favorite of ours.
All right. Okay. Do I get to call on some people and be like,
yeah, go for it.
All right, I'm calling on HP. You basically signed up, man. You signed up. This is you. You raised your hand without raising it.
How come I knew that was coming? I knew that was coming too. Well, obviously I don't know the episode numbers. It's funny. It's more about one of the guests that Erin had, and it's because what I took out of it. So it's Brandon Fong. So there's 2. I can't remember the second one's an episode, but the first one was Brandon Fong's episode, and he had this framework for reaching out to people. And I can't remember when I reached out to Erin, but I somehow found Erin's first book. Somehow figured out that she was in Connecticut, that she had worked at Aetna or right in that realm, and I had been at CVS. So like we connected on that for no other reason than it's like, hey, I found this book, found the podcast. It's 2025, not a Gen X woman.
Just so you know, we were told at some point to niche, and so we said, "Oh, this podcast is for Gen X women," and immediately all the male listeners, were quick to tell me like they're still going to listen, and I said, "Well, it's just like anything with a man; they want what they can't get." So I now say Gen X leaders, whatever. Okay,
yeah, I get you. So it's funny because his framework for reaching out to people that you basically don't know, like how to better cold reach out to folks, has been so powerful in like what I do. I use it on him. which was funny because I said, hey, I heard you on this podcast. And I basically used his format on him, and I still follow him to this day. So from what I got out of something personally, that was a great episode, great guest. The other one, which I can't remember if it was a podcast episode or something else that you guys had put out, was around Gilligan's Island. And because Nicole's laughing because from that, Nicole and I had this conversation in Facebook that went back and forth for a while. That had less to do with work, but it had to do with everything. Like you and I had this long-ranging conversation that went from work to like personal to like deep stuff around like our families and how we were raised and things of that nature. And so those two things stand out for me just because it tied me to the two of you in a way that was like, what a weird, strange trip to meet people on the internet, which 10, 15, 20 years ago, like, what did you do? I met a couple of people on the internet. Oh yeah, I drove to this person's party that I was sort of invited to on my way back from work.
Yeah, you came to the 50% rule book launch. Yeah.
And so to me, like those two things stick out just because when I got so much out of that Brandon's episode, that guest, and then the other one, just that personal connection that was just so random that I was like, I remember as a kid watching Gilligan's Island, of one of the few channels I got on my TV, right? Like, and how funny I thought that show was, but that's stood out. It made an instant connection with me and Nicole to then have this conversation that started there and went everywhere, back and forth.
Power of authenticity.
I think you just summed me up like perfectly, HB. Thank you. I also just want to say I appreciate that because first of all, like we met on the internet and we're actually authentic humans and nobody is like a serial killer that we know of and like all good there. So good for us. And I do love the connection with people. And I think some of them in person, some of them, over email or LinkedIn, but real connection. Like we have real conversations with people and real friendships. And I think that's the beauty. Like that's the beauty of this community. I pray for more of that. Thank you. That's awesome. All right, we need at least one more. What brave soul? Heather, Mari.
Gotcha.
Okay, even as a concept, is there something from the podcast that resonates with you?
Well, one of my favorites, I mean, it has to be because it was the time I interviewed both of you.
That was 200, right? Was that 200 or 100? It was 200, right?
It was 200.
Yep.
Yeah. And ironically, of course, now I look back on it, I shouldn't even say this. I'm totally critical of myself. I'm like, gosh, you could have done such a better job because now I have my own podcast and I've gotten so much better at asking questions or just having a conversation that feels authentic. Right. But yeah, I do love that podcast just because I was very honored to be a part of it. But there's two other ones there that I love. Sandy Rosenthal, I can't remember which one it is. I don't know, just something about her spoke to me. So I'll never forget that one. And then there's another one. It was a woman from the elevator company.
Oh, Renee Zog. Yeah.
Renee Zog. Yeah, those two.
Yep.
Which ironically, Erin, it's the elevator one. And you saw my post on LinkedIn not too long ago. You had said something to me when I interviewed you back at Aetna CVS when you were leaving. And I know it wasn't your quote and you stole it, quote unquote, stole it. But you said, don't forget to send the elevator back down. And it is absolutely one of the most memorable things I've ever heard. And I still repeat that mantra thanks to you. So how funny that one of the other episodes I loved was about an elevator woman who works at an elevator company.
Well, I have to say a couple of things. First of all, her podcast, Heather Pierce's podcast, is called Healthcare Uprising. And it's all about diving into the healthcare world, but through the lens of so many of the like unique facets and founders and people and everything from her husband's journey, who unfortunately took a bad fall and personally is going through his own healthcare journey, to people that run menopause companies and other things. So it's a very like new age podcast. Heather is also, we have a lot of supporters, but like I'd get sick of me and Nicole, at some point, but she's been a supporter, a super supporter, as we like to say, for this entire journey. So thank you for that. Yeah. And then I don't remember the Rosenthal one, but Renee Zog, we do from time to time, I bring on like real executives. These aren't just thought leaders or speakers, but executives that I worked with. And Renee was probably one of the most formidable. And the funny thing about the elevator, when she went from Aetna and then took on the chief information officer or CTO, I can't remember if it was CIO or CTO.
Was it Otis?
At Otis.
Okay.
I remember writing her on LinkedIn when she did her message, and I was like, "Can you just do something for me, though? Can you figure out a way to put an undo button on the stupid elevators, like when you push the wrong floor? Because I do not understand why those don't have those." But unfortunately, she's now retired, and I have not seen an undo button. I just don't understand it.
Everything should have an undo button.
Everything.
I as an aside, the best career and life advice I ever got was from a woman in like her 80s-ish, sitting down at lunch, and she goes, over a cigarette with a glass of wine. She's like, "Cole, make as few irrevocable decisions as possible." So that's some advice.
Have you actually listened to that? Did you know who she was talking to?
That's
I love
right.
that.
Exactly.
Hey there, it's Erin. I'm just popping in real quick to ask you a question. Is there any chance you know someone who is looking for a keynote speaker for their upcoming event? Look, I know that many event organizers, they struggle to find a speaker who provides both tangible value and business knowledge, but that also lights their audience on fire. And I truly believe there aren't many speakers like me out there who are both former corporate executives and professionally trained speakers. And there's definitely none that roll in with an orange suitcase they unpack with their audience. Trust me on that. I would love nothing more than to bring my message of using authenticity as your strategic career and business advantage to people spinning in your universe, especially if you'd be there. I promise my talks always create an immediate buzz, but not just right after, but for months and years after the event is over. You can learn more about my message, style, and reviews, and share my speaking info by going to beauthenticinc.com/keynote-speaking. That's B, just the letter B, authenticinc.com/keynote-speaking. Or of course, we have it right in the show notes to make it easy for you too.
Another question we got was, what is the biggest interview mistake you can make? I will start on that. I love that question. Susan Watson submitted that. I don't think she made the call, but the biggest thing I learned, and hopefully you see it in the progression of the times when we've had guests and I've interviewed, or even, obviously I don't really interview you, but in our conversations, here it is. Don't talk too much. Like, ask the question and shut up. And it's really hard for me in particular. I have so many thoughts. I have so many stories. And for me, the reason I like to respond is because it feels like connection. But I think the best interviews I've done are those, where I've asked the question and I've really let that interviewer shine. And I tend to, when I listen to podcasts where the interviewer talks too much, I'm like, shut the hell up. Like, I just want to hear that voice. So that's the thing. That's the growth I've tried to have with interviewing. Ask thoughtful questions. Ask questions that bring out stories and not, dumb stuff, but also like ask the question and shut up. And you don't have to necessarily like really add your 2 cents because people just want to hear them shine. What about you, Nick? I know you used to do interviews as much. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the funniest part is like I totally interpreted that question differently. I was like, "Oh, what's the worst mistake you can make in a job interview?" Like, I'm 100% like that might be it. Like left.
Maybe it is. You might be right.
Whoa! See, everybody, like this is why I haven't killed each other because we're having 2 totally separate experiences in the same virtual space. It's like, no, but I'm gonna go with you. So one thing I've learned, interviews, life, whatever, the power of asking good questions. I'm not even sure the answers are important. I think the questions are what's important, right? It's powerful questions that drive everything forward. That drives good conversation. It drives thoughtfulness. It drives like self introspection. So and also like just saying it's an amazing form of protest. I always say this. I'm just curious. I'm just asking questions. And if questions are upsetting and to people, then you know that you've touched a nerve, right? As well. So I think powerful questions, period, in any form are great. When interviewing, I would say, let's say when being interviewed, let's say for a job. So we'll take it in another direction. What I think is the most important thing is actually be coming to the table exactly as who you are, because and this is a push for the power of authenticity, but it's not about, again, just being your full self or being everything in the room, but it's in an interview, like you have a very short window of time to try to connect with people and to figure out if the people around you are people that are going to be the kind of people who are going to take you the next step forward, or you're going to help take them the next step forward. Like, do your communication styles work? Can you sort of see a way forward working with these people? Can you like truly create space, collaborative space together? And I think that is the most important thing, is to try to find the places of where like we are truly communicating and feeling like there's exponential value in that communication. Again, it's not about necessarily the best skill set or whatever. It's like, do you feel like you are in a space with a human where you can create great things? Because interviews are always about the past, but we don't care about the past. What we really care about is the future, right? So how are you getting in that conversation, in that space? How are you both demonstrating and eliciting, whether you're the interviewer or the interviewee, that there's exponential value in that future together? That's what I think.
That's so good. That's so much better than the angle I was taking. Eric, you have your hand raised. Come on off mute. We'd love to hear from you.
I'm glad this subject came up because it gives me, hopefully, as a voice to your audience that you don't get to hear from, a chance to say what a great job you do interviewing. There are a lot of bad podcasts out there and people asking questions that don't really do research and are not asking thoughtful questions. And I'm seeing other head nods here. I on behalf of your audience, we appreciate you, Erin, and the questions you ask and the insights you draw out.
I love that. Thank you. I also have a gift for you. Eric has done tons of videos for me. He's a total video savant. If you ever need videos, work with Eric. Debbie's smiling. I think you were around when we were doing some stuff. But one thing Eric is also good at is telling you stuff you don't want to hear about, like my video presence. And the thing he always complains about, that you're going to love this, is that my glasses on camera are you can see the ring light there. I need it. So this is for you, Eric. This is for you. This is how I solved it. I got a pair that was scratched. And when I did this for you, because I knew, and you can't, if you're listening, I knocked out the glasses. So this is my fake version. And now when I have like a big, video or whatever, I put on these because I can't get them to not shine. So thank you for pushing me. And these glassless glasses are a tribute to you.
And your shot looks great. You're in the right part of the frame. You have enough light. You have a great microphone. You're aced the exam.
I love it.
So,
awesome. All right. So let's go on. Heather asked a question, healthcare uprising podcaster. What is the most significant thing that has changed you or changed for you as a result of doing this podcast? Nicole.
A couple of things. I think we touched on it already, which is I sort of came in as this person of like, I don't know what's happening here, what's going on. My life is pretty good. Everything is kind of set. And then slowly this thing started to unravel. I was like, oh my God, I have been listening to my own bullshit, much of which you must have enjoyed for the first 100, 200 episodes. But I think that a couple of things, like one, I had a space to be fully me and fully heard and seen at a time when I think I felt very unseen personally and professionally, like just going through so much in my life. Again, even though this is about like work doesn't have to suck, like we are all humans in this place. And it was the first time I think I really felt like, and Erin, this I think is largely because of you. Erin is a wonderful collector of people and she brings people together all the time. But I've always felt like I was someone who was like, maybe because of my neurodivergence or just my personality, I always felt like I was on the periphery looking in of all the things that were happening in the world. Even when I had a big role, I always felt peripheral to it. And suddenly Erin puts me on center stage to be my full me, but also not to just give, but to also receive. And I was just so not used to receiving anything from anybody ever. And I realized like what a gift it was to have a platform, to have a community, to fully express myself, but also to face my own bullshit on recording. Like I would go back and hear things either in real time or years later and be like, oh my God, this is a whole history of my life. Like, look at my growth. And I also realized that not only did I have to learn things, but I had to unlearn things. Um, I learned the power of honesty. Like this place is a place of accountability. This podcast is a place of accountability for me. And so it was like I had to suddenly become radically honest with myself, transparent, and show up consistently, which has now become my mantra for success. Like when I think about, like I have a very large team and what I do, and I think about where did that mantra of success that I have for my team come from? You know, I have sort of this one overarching like obsession or goal or whatever, but I always say, I don't care about anything. Just do it consistently, do it transparently, and do it to the best of your ability. And that has gotten me so far in the last few years. And that was something that came out of my work on this podcast of doing those things myself and to seeing the benefit of it. So I just want to thank everybody here for giving me that space to be seen and heard and to, develop what came to be sort of my key to my management successes that is translated broadly. So thank you for that.
Well, and what I love too is if you listen to the arc of our episodes, like she has become the teacher. The more recent episodes, if you've listened to any of them, there's so many great and they're all come with humor and uniqueness and authenticity, but leadership lessons and things that aren't just a reflection of, oh, I sucked at this. I'm doing so many positive things. I think the other thing is we have a cheat code now. So there were big politically charged, literally, because she works for the state, changes in her leadership over the last couple of weeks. And a new regime came in this week. And she's like, oh, big week, this is happening. She has a friend in from town. We're recording this. And I just texted her. I said, be the new you, not the old you. And that's all I said, right? Because she knew, the old her, you would have been obsessed. You would have canceled plans. You would have done everything to prove your value to this new leadership. You would have put together an 80-page PowerPoint deck in 3 languages, and they only speak one, and so we kind of have this cheat code. For me, a couple things. One, just our friendship and seeing that, which it was, what I would say that hopefully can transfer to everybody here and listening to your goals, dreams. When you start something like a podcast, yes, I told you about Earth, but then quickly your goals are we want to grow it and we want to become well known and famous and we want to make money from it, right? All the and I'm in the speaking industry, so everybody teaches you you got to make sure that it helps you get clients, because we spend a lot of money putting this podcast together. We have people that help us, and none of that really is what's been the biggest things. The biggest things for me, one, have been relationships that I've built. I mean, those interview podcasts, when you interview people, we have a media company. And so I've been able to meet and talk to people, and not necessarily famous people, but really amazing people that have helped change my life, whether it's things they said on the interview. It's, Lisa Bodell, who I met and then gave me some tips around speaking. And now a year later, my speaking career is skyrocketing. So one, it's been the relationships. 2, it's just the tiny, tiny little things. So we are not famous. We do not have 1 million downloads, but it's the little things when I got that email last summer, remember, Nicole, and I sent it to you from the VP at Mall of America.
Mm-hmm.
Read my books, listened to the podcast, and I mentioned in some call to action AKA one of our little advertisements, that it was National Authenticity Day coming up and also National Roller Coaster Day. And he somehow listened to that and didn't fast forward past it and sent an invite for us to come out and do a podcast interview there and do an interview on the roller coaster. And again, like, none of that immediately has led to anything in particular, but it's led to incredible relationships. It's led to incredible footage. And most importantly, really incredible memory. Nicole and I went out with my two kids. Mick and Ella came with us, and we spent a full day at Mall of America. They got free tickets on everything. I got interviewed on a roller coaster. Like, we shopped till we dropped. Like, so, the point is, there are the like goals. And I have a lot of people in my speaking circles that have stopped doing podcasts because they're like, the ROI is not there. And I get it. Like, I don't even know. We've probably spent $100,000 producing this podcast over the last 7 years. But the ROI, sometimes you got to look at it differently. And I think for us, the biggest thing, like, how many times have I'm like, Nicole, we got to have like a strategy session because somebody told us, or the latest gurus say we need
I
to
love it.
episodes need to be shorter, or we need to, right? Like, all the shoulds. And then
I just show up like myself, and it's just like,
And every time we do that, I swear to God, every time we do that, Nicole, I get some text, you get some text, like some listener, like somebody you work with, or like, I've binged this and it's amazing. And like, the universe is like, just keep going. And so for us, we just believe in what we're doing, even if, we're not the mega superstars that, somebody might say we should be, after 7 years. And so I think just being able to do something because you just believe in it and you love it and you care about the people that are listening, I think, like, it's been really powerful.
And I do want to ask the group sort of their version of that, like what they've gotten out of it. And some of you can, also share that with the episodes. But I'd like to say one more thing, which is the power of creativity. I think that many of us working in the professional world, living our lives with families, other obligations in life, like, we laugh about like how hard adulting is. And part of this podcast, it, like, an alternative name could be like, oh, adulting doesn't have to suck, right? I mean, that's literally what we're doing here. And we sometimes feel like, oh, how do we get back to that, like, joy and wonder in life and control and things like that? And having a creative outlet, this podcast and many other things have made me realize that missing a creative outlet, like missing a space where we can show up, showing a creative, beautiful, like, inner or outer side to ourselves, in a way that is unexpected, right? It's not the economist Nicole that shows up, it's a podcaster. It's not, mom Erin or executive Erin that shows up. It's writer Erin that shows up. Like, we are multifaceted humans. We are, multi-personalitied people. And it is so important to cultivate those sides of ourselves. And I would say, if people listening to this podcast for the first time, like, one of the great lessons coming out of this is like, making work not suck means that you're also feeding all of those sides of you in your life. And you cannot expect it necessarily to come from one place. If you expect all of your self-worth and value and identity to come from your occupation, that is probably not going to serve you. And to think about, when you've got, what are the things in, like, that childlike wonder that you're missing? For me, it was about missing that creative space, and being almost too analytical in my life. And this podcast and other things like the modeling have helped me, like, bring back that side. And so I would hope that our listeners are thinking about, how am I bringing creativity and expression into my life to help me both, in my career, but also just life and bringing your full self to the table. Like, that's what this is about.
Yeah. And one thing you just like went by, like, this was a big thing for her. Like, Nicole is a very artistic person and doing a very non-artistic job. And not only the podcast get it, but I think it's part of, like, what gave her the energy and maybe a little bit of the inspiration to go, have her side gig where she does modeling, 3 nights a week now, 3, 4, I mean, like crazy. And so she works for the state of Connecticut doing, no offense, but like
Economist.
regulatory affairs for utilities. And then, also gets to do a podcast and gets to do modeling. And like, so if you guys are feeling like those itches aren't being scratched, like go scratch them. Yeah, I'd
I'm
love
just
to
trying
hear.
not to get fired, basically. But, who knows? Maybe
That too.
Maybe it's worth it.
That is the more amazing thing, that this podcast has not led to directly to any.
No one's been arrested or fired or what,
or hated or hated each other or
Exactly.
gotten in any massive fights.
Yeah.
It's a minor miracle. Hey guys, Erin here. Stop. Do not do it. Don't fast forward. I have something too important. I have a couple of very passive aggressive questions to ask you that you don't want to miss. Here they are. 1, do you find yourself often comparing yourself to others? Like, they work harder than me, they get noticed more than me, they have better luck than me, they're smarter than me. Or do you also just feel exhausted from having to always work as hard, if not harder, than everybody else to stand out and succeed? Like, I know you have these challenges. We all do. And this is why I wrote the 50% rule. And I know you need to read another book, like you need a hole in the head. But I'm telling you, this book and this rule, I'm obsessed with it. And it has changed my life. It has changed the lives of others around us. And it has also been the formula for success behind so many successful people. Savannah Bananas, Hamilton, Weird Al Yankovic. The 50% rule is the simplest shortcut to stop comparing, stop copying, stop chasing other people, and like literally compete in your league of your own. There isn't a day that doesn't go by where I stop myself and I'm like, oh, she did a talk that I wish I could do. She's got more. No, it doesn't matter, because we don't compete in the same league. I compete in a league of my own because I am constantly 50% ruling things. So if you're interested in this concept, which by the way is more fun as a team sport, but at least start with yourself. You cannot miss this book. It's not only powerful, it's really freaking fun to read. That is always my number one goal. It's my number one goal with my first book. It's my number one goal with the 50% rule. I want to make it enjoyable to read it. Why? So that you read it. So if you feel like you are stuck with these comparison cramps or just all the symptoms that I talk about in the book of sleep running syndrome, self-doubt gout, and pioneer paralysis, and well, you have to read the book to find out more, then just go buy the darn book. Easiest way, go to Amazon, search the 50% rule, and I cannot wait to hear how you 50% rule things.
So, of the group, does anyone want to share something that they've gotten out of this, or maybe you've avoided arrest with one of our tactics, or I don't know, maybe you've.
I will.
Hey, Debbie.
Hi, Debbie.
Hey,
So good to
Happy.
see you.
So this isn't about a specific episode, but just kind of the arc of what you two do. For me, what's so valuable is that you two have this relationship that is so deep and so authentic between the two of you. So when I listen, it's kind of like I'm sitting in on a girls' weekend or a dinner out or whatever. What you're telling stories that feel so good, and then you turn it to being a lesson or a reason, right? So sometimes the stories are just to laugh at each other and have fun and tease each other, but sometimes it's about really deep work that you're doing together. And all of us get to benefit from that by hearing it through your words and your relationship. And it wouldn't work if you two didn't already have that, right? So for me, that's the key component.
That's so helpful to hear. Thank you, Debbie, for sharing that. And back to this, like the shoulds, right? Like if you talk to the podcast gurus and you look at all the things, us spending too much time, and we have cut back a little bit. Like I think there are episodes where, maybe we do it too much, but
I never got to tell my gravy boat story. I'm still mad about that.
and Rachel is still
Thanksgiving.
and Rachel is still frightened of you. for that. So Rachel, who edits our podcast, we did an episode in person. And when we do them in person, which is usually only a couple times a year, like they definitely go off the rails a little bit more because usually there's wine and and so we were in that mode where we're like, oh, the gurus say these need to be shorter. And so I'm like, Rachel, like edit, like we can edit. And she edited out her story about her gravy boat, which was about your mother.
Not my mother. It was a story about boundaries. Someday it's going to come back.
Well, we'll bring it back. And so I'm like, Rachel, like, go ahead, let's tighten it up. I understand we ran a little long and if you think Nicole doesn't notice. And so literally since that day, it's been a couple years and Rachel is just like, are you sure? Because Nicole is going to get mad if I,
I've learned, but the gravy boat is now like a symbol. Like if some people have like dumpster fire as their symbol or the happy face, like the gravy boat. It's definitely like a symbol that will live on forever. And someday that story will be told because I also believe I have learned so much about boundaries. And I think that might be a topic we're going to delve into.
Well, Thanksgiving's coming up. So maybe we'll resurrect it for
my own version of like the Adam Sandler Thanksgiving song. It's just going to keep coming back,
Right. I love it. Thanks for sharing that, Debbie. That makes us feel better about our indulgent stories and that you sort of ride sidecar and listen as well.
Yes.
Barb, love to hear from you, my dear.
So I've been along for the ride a lot, which has been really, really fun and really amazing to watch you grow in real time, both of you. But the feeling of not being alone, and having these observations that resonate so strong and leaving episodes, whether they're, personally, I'm a fan of the couch and the wine situation, but there is this body of work when you get to a certain point in your career when you just can't be as out there with your thoughts and still be as productive. Right. Because you do have to. And I have learned a lot about self-governing through this podcast, I will say. Right. But there have been some of these just bringing tears because the feeling is overwhelming of knowing others.
Thank you. I'm with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. I'm with you on that.
And for people listening or on the thing, Barb was actually a guest, episode 216, how pushing back propelled her career forward, and tells, probably one of my top 5 favorite stories about having to go tell a gentleman that she accidentally gave the wrong price increase and had to give him like a 300% price increase, and how she handled that with pure and utter authenticity, including bringing a picture of her daughter with her to put on the desk. So, so many of these episodes are packed with so many stories, and Barb was part of that and has also been a super supporter, like Heather and Maury and so many HP others that are on here. So thank you for sharing that, and thanks for being on the journey with us. I think it's a good segue for our last question because we're going to end this at the top of the hour. Last question we got, Tanya, you asked this, was what's next for 300? Actually, a couple people asked what's next after 300, I should say. Nicole, what do you want to say to that?
Episode 301. I'm just kidding. That was my first thought. I was like, what comes to mind? Episode 301.
Neurodivergence.
No, I don't know. I've been thinking about this for a long time because, I love things to be useful and like creative endeavors. I was thinking about, we have this enormous body of work, like what comes next with that? And now we have so many tools to help us that we did not have 7 years ago. So how do we take this body of work, which is funny and like delightful, but also in a hard form to digest, like particularly like someone like Nikita coming in, meeting after 300 episodes, might not have the time. I mean, maybe you do to listen to 300 episodes, but like how do you digest that and how do you experience that? So in this manner of wanting to like honor all of the people who have been with us the whole time and give them this information again in like a useful packet, and also to bring new people in and a place where they can interact with it, is like, what is the way that we can take this content and turn it into something that is like searchable, usable, engageable? And I don't know what that looks like. It's probably a variety of things, of some form of like written form. It might even be a creative use of the content. It could even be searchable tools where people say, for example, and Erin, you mentioned this before, is like, I'm grappling with a question. I'd like, give me a couple of 3 to 5 minute segments that I can listen to that will like make me laugh or would help me have some strategies around whatever. And boundaries or something, or interacting with AI, whatever. So making this stuff, making our 300 plus episodes, because I'm hoping for 300 more, something that is interactive and usable. But also just, there's so many like really funny bits too that I also just want to be able to give that piece to people as well. So something interactive.
So we're thinking about it. We're talking about it. I mean, the good news is with technology these days, I've already seen a podcaster that has a tool that makes the episode searchable. And so, we're going to explore, how can we make them searchable or potentially have AI help us create 5-minute-ish, whatever segments that are in certain categories that help you with interviewing or, like you said, boundaries or whatever topic. Barb says we need outtake reel. We have so many of those. And in fact, one of the things a lot of people don't, only probably the OGs really remember, but in 2019, a year after we started recording this, we actually took our podcast live on the road to New York City. I mean, I know I've got to bring up the footage, and we did an event. So we had this vision that this wouldn't just be a podcast in its form, that this could be a live event and experience. So, a lot of it sort of took inspiration from, if you've seen I Mom So Hard, they actually go on the road and they are live and they entertain people. And we thought, what if we did that? But it wasn't just entertaining, it was also enrichment. It was around growth. And so we had this epiphany that summer, like we didn't have to wait to build the audience. We could overtake somebody else's women's event. So I took my friend Julie out to lunch one day. And after a bottle of wine and one more glass, I said, hey, what if we have this idea that we want to do? At the time, it wasn't called Because Workcast Doesn't Have to Suck. It was called Because with Erin and Nicole. And I have this idea about to do a live show. And so I almost forget about it sometimes. It was 6 years ago. We did this live event experience and we did a whole video on it. We did a pre-recorded spoof on When Harry Met Sally. And these were women in venture capital and private equity, which was amazing to really screw with them. And so those dreams haven't completely died, even though the COVID came in. We also realized how hard that was. But I can see us also, going back to like, how can we bring this in a more live format and on the road and do some of the things we did back in.
And two things about that experience. One, that bedazzled glitter tracksuit that I wore still fits. Okay. So
of course it does.
And now you're wearing like high-end tracksuits. I'm the one in like the warrior princess costume and you're in a tracksuit. So like the tracksuit's coming back, which is like my icon. And I also have a full velour tracksuit now. So I actually have like a costume change. Also, that was the day that I had introduced to me like glitter face powder, like shimmer face powder.
Mm.
I'll never forget this. And it radically changed my life. I'm not good with makeup. I'm terrible with it, but shimmer face powder. It was Caitlin, your former nanny turned like life guru, who introduced me to this. And I will forever be grateful that trip to New York City for the glimmer powder. So, I mean, imagine
I'm gonna break out some of those videos and re-bring. If you're not connected on LinkedIn or whatever, get on there. Like, I gotta.
And some of the ones from the living room are absolutely hilarious. And I'm eating in every single one of them because, as everyone knows, I'm a prodigious eater. And I think in this era of like magical weight loss drugs and many other things, like the fact that I will happily eat an entire bag of Terra chips during an episode, despite the sound quality, is just, I think it should be celebrated. Like, we need to bring those things.
Yeah. And it's so funny when I brought that up, I was like, I bet you Barb could. And then sure enough, in the chat, Barb's like, might have an opportunity. So like, if there's ever a person who's like, oh, you want to do the impossible? What are you doing next Tuesday? It's Barb Flitch. So
I'm here for it.
I'll have my people call your people.
Legit, they're lighting the tree at Rockefeller on December 3rd. And I'm going to be but we've taken inspiration from you and now are doing our own kind of, we're calling it like conference redo.
to try and freshen up some of these horrifying conferences. We trademarked their Amp Fuzzy mics. So I envision an Amp Fuzzy Mics episode with the two of you in front of the Rockefeller tree lighting on December 3rd. So just put us in there.
That would be
I'm doing
funny.
it.
That'd be
Pinned on.
amazing.
Love that. I'm here for it. Thank you.
All right.
Love it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for supporting us, both those that are just listening, those that came in person. If we don't every once in a while get like support or a review or something from you, like we definitely get sad. So you guys keep us going, keep us excited. And especially on the days when we're like, oh, let's go back to how we should do this. Thanks for keeping us away from that crap.
Yes. And I just want to say, like, 300, like, we put in the effort. We made it with our Warhammer.
Break out the hammer.
We are here. We are here for more. Also, just stay true, stay authentic, which is what has been the basis of this. Keep communicating. And, like, I don't know, maybe TMI is not a bad thing. Maybe it's just market research.
Love it. Thank you.
Hey, it's Erin with a teeny request. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast and you'd like us to stick around, plus you want it to continue to grow so we can kind of swindle bigger and more knowledgeable guests to join us and to keep providing you with tangible and inspiring actions you can take to achieve the career and life you deserve, could you please just take 1 minute to leave us a rating and a review? Those reviews go a long way in attracting guests to the show, and candidly, they really make Nicole and I's day. We see you. We really do. So when you have the time and inspiration, we'd love to see a rating and review from you. Thank you.